Welcome to the Gen Z Show. I'm your host, James McLamb. The show is brought to you by Generation Ziglar. And I am joined today by my favorite co-host. And I don't mean that lightly. I am sincere. My favorite co-host, Abby Durham. How are you doing, Abby?
I'm doing great, James. How are you?
I'm doing well. My daughter is going to get very mad with me for saying that since she's my co-host as
Oh,
well.
I'm going to text her and tell her, hey, SB, I've surpassed you.
So, well, today's special guest is a man named Trenell Walker. And what a great story he has, a story that I am excited about to be able to share with our Gen Z audience, because a lot of folks, life is just not going like they thought it was going to go, and they don't see any hope, they don't see any opportunities. And Trenell's story is going to be one that you're going to want to hear, of a young man who was injured as a freshman in high school on a football field, where he became paralyzed from the neck down, and the things that he has learned over this 25-year journey that he has had since then. Listen to it. Abby, what did you think our audience is going to glean from this, and what did you glean as well?
I was in complete awe of his unshakable faith. And it is truly inspiring that someone who's had such tragedy in their life, especially with such promise ahead of them for such a successful career in sports, or that could be attributed to anything that you are aspiring to be involved in. But his ability to take such a negative situation and rely on his faith to bring himself out of depression and out of adversity was truly remarkable.
You're going to love this story, his story, his enthusiasm, his passion to help others. I mean, it all comes through as we go this. We just sat back in awe of the things that he has learned and the things that he's really able to share with us. There is links in the show notes that, I say this every week, but this week you really need to go into show notes. You need to click on those, because there's a link down there to a short film about him, a link to the book that he has just written, and links on how to connect with him on social media. He wants to connect with you. He wants to share with you. He wants to help you and encourage you. And these resources that we have, that he has, that we provide links on, please go down and check on those. So sit back, listen, and get ready to share this with other people. Subscribe to the channel, share it with other people. Mr. Trenell Walker. Hey, Trenell, welcome to the Gen Z Show. How are you doing, friend?
Hey, blessed and doing my best.
Well, that's good to hear. It's been a while since you and I've seen each other. It's probably been a couple of years, or maybe more than that, since I saw you down at Tom Ziglar's office.
hmm Yeah, with all this COVID going on, it's probably going to be a couple of more years before we see each other
That's very
in
true.
person.
In person, exactly right. But it's good that we have this opportunity to talk today, and for to learn more about uh, your story, and how that really can be impactful for this younger generation, the Gen Z generation, which we really focus on here. So Trenell, our audience may not be familiar with you. They're probably coming to our channel today. They're coming on this Tuesday afternoon, and they're looking at it and they're going, all right, who have they got this week? So introduce yourself. Tell our audience what they need to know about you going forward.
I mean, that's one of the hard but easy questions. Basically, I am Trenell, and growing up, I grew up in like a single parent home with just me, my brother, and my grandmother, and so family has always been important in my life. So as I was growing up in a single parent home, my big brother was my big influence, and sports was big in our family. So in doing so, football was his favorite sport. So naturally it became mine too. So as I was going through, school and growing up with a single parent, education and sports was the thing that I really gravitated to, because that was my way out of doing things. And I'm telling you, I ate, slept, everything sports and football. Well, my freshman year, I had an opportunity to fulfill my dream of playing varsity football as a freshman.
In Texas?
Yes.
Ooh.
And in our school, it was a 4A powerhouse football team. So, and I was able to start, but my life was going as planned. I was fulfilling my dreams, I was making good grades, and I was using my athletic talent to help me get to the next level. Well, on October 20th, 1995, my life changed in the blink of an eye. It was a home game. The lights from Bearcat Stadium shined down on the field, capturing my performance. The cold October breeze nipped at my skin as I went and took my position on defense on the left side because I was playing strong safety. I remember looking at the quarterback waiting for him to receive the ball. He received the ball and immediately tossed it to the running back headed in my direction. I read that play like a book. I ran upfield as fast as I could. The running back was headed in my direction and he saw me. But as he did, he tried to avoid me by reversing field and going the opposite direction. I made a textbook tackle from behind, hitting the running back, wrapping him up, and driving him toward the ground. Little did I know that my teammate was coming from the opposite side to assist me. The running back saw him, but I had no clue. So he ducked underneath my teammate, and my teammate ended up hitting me instead at the top of my helmet,
Mm.
crushing the fourth vertebrae in my neck like a piece of glass, leaving me paralyzed from the neck down. I remember laying there on the field, not being able to move. The only thing I could feel as I laid on my left side was the inside of my body curling into a fetal position. It felt weird. And then I heard my brother come down and ask me as he took my mouthpiece out of my mouth, what's wrong? I told him I thought I broke my back. Then I heard the trainer ask me, can you squeeze my hand? I didn't even know he was touching me. The next thing I remember is hearing the paramedics telling the other helpers to hold my head as they turned me on my back. And then it felt like my legs and arms were straight up in the air, even though they wasn't. I was immediately taken to the ICU at the local hospital. I remember looking up at my mom as I kept hearing stuff. And I asked her, what is that noise? She said, they're cutting your pads off of you. I looked at her again. I said, am I paralyzed? She nodded her head yes. I was in the intensive care unit for 18 days. While I was there, my heart stopped, not once, not twice, but 3 times and my lungs collapsed. The doctors didn't know if I was going to live or die, but I'm grateful for my mother because she had a prayer. I had a praying mother. She's always had that faith, the size of a mustard seed, that regardless of what happened, she always put it in God's hand. As I was in ICU and the doctors came out and told her that, she told me, she looked at the doctors and said, you've done your job. It's in the Lord's hands now. And she did something that I would never forget that she told me. And this showed me the power of faith that she had because she said she went and found her a small room. She went and found her a corner in the hospital and just remember, she just prayed. She was like, Lord, he's my son, but he is your child. If it is your will to take him, go ahead and take him, but give me the strength to be able to get through it. But she said, if it is your will for him to live, I will do whatever it is I need to do to make sure he's taken care of. And she's kept her promise. And that's the reason I'm here today, because I learned from her the power of faith, family, and perseverance, that you're able to turn a setback into a great comeback regardless of the situation that you're going through. And so that is just a little background of how I went from being an able-bodied 14-year-old freshman playing playing the sport I love to end up to where you see now someone using a wheelchair but never quit regardless of the situation because I didn't let my condition determine my position.
Now, did you immediately have that kind of positive outlook or attitude, or did that evolve over? I mean, because you're what, 14, 15 years old when this happened?
Yeah, I was 14. It was 2 weeks before my 15th birthday.
Wow.
Heck no, I was mad. I was mad. I mean, I was mad. Honestly, when I first was injured, I didn't know it was me, the injured. I thought it was my teammate that got injured. So I felt I'm in the ICU crying for him,
Mm.
not realizing that it was me. But initially, no, I was angry.
So what helped you go from the anger? I mean, I understand we'll go through different stages, but what helped you get there? Faith, what was the catalyst for that?
Um, it was what I call the Trenell Effect.
Ooh.
And I learned this from my mom. Go to sleep. I learned this from my mom and my brother. The Trenell Effect simply is the T stands for take action. Proper action leads to satisfaction. While I was laying there being angry and feeling depressed, I realized that I had to make a decision because my mom has always talked about faith, but I'm gonna let you know I was angry at God. I was so mad at God that I was like, hey, if you don't make me walk again, I ain't gonna worship you.
Mm.
And then I started bargaining with the devil. I'm like, devil, hey, if you make me walk again, I will worship you. But did nothing happen. So again, one of the things that I did have to do that I really didn't want to do, I relied back on my faith. And this is what happened. One night I was laying in bed, being sick and tired of being sick and tired of crying myself to sleep, feeling angry and depressed. And I remember asking Jesus to come into my life and have his way. My eyes closed tightly, and I had a peace that passeth all understanding overcome me. And I heard a tender voice say, Trenell, you put football before me. I don't want anything put before me. But through this injury, I'm going to inspire others that if they put me first and use their mind to the fullest, they can do anything. So right then, I recognized that my purpose was bigger than playing football. So I had to take action. I had to take action and rely on my faith. And I'm not saying that there's not a different way of taking action. I'm just saying that was my way of taking action and being able to gain strength when I was weak. And even though I took that action, I was still weak. My faith was still, cracked. But my mom's faith was so strong, I had to rely on hers until mine kicked in. And then once it kicked in, I started continue to take action on getting out of my comfort zone.
Mm.
I had to take action on, even though my friends, again, when you go through something hard, especially at that young of age, they don't understand. So I lost a lot of my friends. One of the things I had to do was start journaling because buried emotions are not dead emotions. You cannot heal what you do not feel. So I had to just start taking notes and really getting what was on the inside out. So that was one of the ways that I continue to take action. I also started getting out of the house because I had isolated myself. Because then again, I went from being a promising athlete to one with a disability, and it was hard for me. But I eventually ended up getting out. And this required me to be resilient. And that is the R. The R is resilience. Because you have to be resilient because two steps back, you have to be resilient because two steps back can lead to a great comeback. And one of the ways I had to learn to be resilient, and again, I'm so grateful for my mom, is that I was invited to go to this golf tournament where they was raising money for me to go to college. I wasn't really feeling it. I'm laying in bed. I remember it was a Saturday morning, and I'm laying in bed sleeping good. Mom comes in, flip on the light. You ready to go to this tournament? I looked at her. I ain't going. She's like, boy, yes, you are. I'm like, no, I ain't. She's like, boy, I brought you into this world and I will take you out. Yes, you are going. And so she proceeded to get me dressed. And I'm like, I ain't going. She's like, what you gonna do to stop me? Bite me? Yeah. And I'm telling you, I was hot as fish grease. So as she was sitting there getting me dressed, putting on getting my pants, and she transferred me into my wheelchair, I actually had a little trick on my sleeve. So with me, my body is flimsy. So if I lean my head forward, my body will go forward. So as she was trying to put on my shirt, I would lean forward and fall into my lap. Boom. She would have to push me back in my chair. So every time she went to put my shirt on, I would lean forward. Boom. She started getting mad. I'm like, yeah, boy, my plan is working. Next thing I know, I end up hearing a clink, clink, clink. It was the familiar sound of the gate belt, the thing she used to transfer me. Next thing I know, she ended up getting that belt, actually tying me to the back of my wheelchair so I couldn't move. And she put my shirt on. And I was looking at her. She was putting my shirt on. I was looking at her. And I got spit in my mouth. And she had looked at me. I'm telling you, that's how angry I was. And she looked at me and she like, boy, you better not spit on me. I'm still your mother and I will whoop you feeling the rest. So I end up swallowing that real quick. So, but I still didn't give up. I was still being resilient. Still, I was still not wanting to go. And so I had one more trick up my sleeve. So I can drive my chair by myself. And so my head with using my head array. So she had got me dressed. It was time to go. She was leaving out the door and she's like, Trenell, come on. I didn't move. Trenell, I said, come on. I didn't move. Next thing I know, I end up hearing a click, click, click. I forgot she can disengage my chair. And she started pushing me out the door. So as I'm going out the back of the door, I end up getting outside and she turned around and she locked the chair so I could toward my van. She said, you can either get in the van or I'm gonna push you in the van. Either way you're going, the choice is yours. Well, I decided to roll on in the van myself. And I went and had a blast. And one of the things that I learned from her, from that situation is no matter how hard things get in life, you have to be resilient. You have to actually take a step back at things, observe them so you can make a great comeback. And that's what I did that's what she taught me at that time. So she made sure that I stayed focused. She made sure that I remained resilient. And she also and this leads us to the E, encourage. Encourage to help one flourish. She always encouraged me to do my best. Even during hard times, even when I didn't believe in myself, she always encouraged me. And I remember this one particular moment when I was laying in bed, just crying my eyes out. And I was asking her, why me? She was like, Trenell, I don't know why. And the interesting thing is, she never asked why. She was like, Trenell, you are on a mission. It didn't make sense to me back then, but as I look at life now and what I'm being able to do as a speaker, as a trainer, and as a coach, AKA life enhancing specialist, I see that I am on a mission. Just like whoever is listening to this right now, you may not understand what's going on in your life, but you are on the mission. And it's going to require you to take action. It's going to require you to be resilient. It's also going to require you to encourage yourself as well as be encouraged by others. Because when you do that, that leads to the end. Never quit. It's impossible to stop a motivated person because they will never quit. And I actually learned this never quit from my brother when I was 6 years old because it was just me and him. He was older. He's 8 years older than me. So he was 14 and I was 6. So instead of wrestling, watching TV or whatnot, we played this game called Up to Middle. We would be in our room and we would get a shoe that would be the football because we couldn't afford a football. We would get our sock or shoes and make those and spread those 6 feet apart, making those represented the out of bounds markers on the football field. My brother, he would get in the middle, representing the defense. I would have the shoe in my hand with the football, being the running back, representing the offense. I would, so I would get like 6 feet away from him to get a running start. Well, on the first attempt, he would say down, said hut, and I was fast. So I tried to use my speed to get around him. That was a mistake because he pushed me so hard that I flew into the wall and stuck there like a portrait. I ended up peeling myself off. I looked at him. He was like, "You mad?" I was like, "Get mad. Do it again." I went back this time. So I thought, I'm gonna run over him like I see them running backs on the football field. I ran toward him as fast as I could. He grabbed me and pushed me so far backwards. I did flips I didn't even know I could do. But the third time, with tears rolling down my face and my body aching from hitting the wall and the floor, I got smart. I ran toward him as fast as I could, like I was going to run over him. He lunged at me. This time I jumped at the last minute, diving over his head. He hit my feet, caused me to flip in the air. I landed on my back, ball in hand. Touchdown, game over. This simple game taught me that in life, things will get hard, but you have to look at things in various different ways and keep going. So if you're in college, if you're on a job and things are not easy, don't ever quit
Mm,
because it's impossible to stop a motivated person because they would never quit. And this leads us to the evaluate. Evaluation can help lead to your destination. The game taught me to evaluate my options. If things don't work one way, try to do it another way. And if they don't work that way again, do something differently Because once you're able to evaluate your life, which is what I had to do when I was 14, my life changed in the blink of an eye. What I thought was actually what I was taught as an able-bodied person didn't work anymore. So I had to take a moment and to evaluate my life. And in doing so, my dream has always been to go to college. I was able to take a moment and realize that I could still graduate from high school, which I did. Then I realized that to go to college, I would need help. I had to evaluate that situation, and that's where my brother stepped in. He went to college with me.
Wow.
Yes, he actually dropped out of high school, dropped out of college to go with me back to college. So I was able to evaluate that. And in doing so, I was able to, this leads us to the L, learn. Learn who was around me that was able to help me. Learn the value of education because I realized that sports is a vehicle. Education is the engine that's going to get you there and beyond. So I had to continue to learn what I could and could not do as well.
Hmm.
So in doing that, I actually learned to the point that I was able to get not only an undergraduate degree in rehabilitation studies, but I ended up getting a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm just sharing this right now because, again, these are the principles that I've learned. And so as you learn, continue to learn, you earn respect for yourself, others, and you could possibly earn more money, money, money. And the last is L, is love, because love is a gift from above. And the hardest thing that I had to learn to love was myself. It's easy. The Bible says, love thy neighbor as thyself. But how could I really love anyone else if I didn't love myself? It is hard for an empty pitcher to quench the thirst of a withering plant. So I want to encourage anyone that's listening to take time to get to know you, what you like, what you don't like, because the real you is more interesting than the fake somebody else. And so as I continue to go through life, it's to love, and to learn, and to just appreciate life. And so that's those things that I've learned as far as getting me out of depression, helping me deal with anger, even continuing now when I don't like myself. I have to encourage myself. So
Well, that is awesome and so helpful in kind of evaluating how we can overcome tragedy and adversity in our lives. I was looking at your website, and the quote that stuck out to me the most was temporary defeat does not mean permanent failure. So, what would you say your best nugget of advice for young people would be to acknowledge that in the moment when they are experiencing that temporary defeat?
recognize that it's only temporary and the best is yet to come. What you're going through right now, whether it's depression, whether it's a hard time in school, that's not going to last forever. Take a deep breath. Find that silver lining. Ask yourself these two questions to help put things in perspective. Number one, is there anything that I can do, whether it's in my personal life? Well, is there anything I can do in my personal and professional life that will make things worse right at this moment? Question number two, is there anything that I can do in my personal and professional life that can make things better? By asking these questions, you will be able to discover, or should I say, identify the things that are causing your life to be worse at that moment. And then you're also able to identify those things that will make your life better. And when you identify those things that will make your life better, that is your silver lining. Those are the things you can focus on. That's where you need to go. So you got awareness. Now you know what you can do to take action.
I really hate that we don't have your mother here to interview because I will say this, the stories that you have shared with us of her encouragement and her resilience and the things that she taught you are just amazingly inspiring for that. And I know that you've had a lot of requests to be able to share your story live, but you've also recently put out a book. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about the journey of the book that you have just released. What, in the last month? Is that correct? The last month?
Yes, it actually came out on January 27th, my mom's birthday, actually, as a matter of
That's
fact.
awesome.
So
What a great son.
so basically, the book, the whole process of the book is again the TRENELL Effect. And I wanted to just simply share with people the 7 principles that I've used to persevere, turning tragedy into triumph, and being able to provide them with tools. Is actually a toolbox. And it was a struggle. I'm gotta tell you that. Writing a book is not easy, but it's worth it. That's the story. That's the legacy that you or I get to leave. And so the TRENELL Effect book is just simply, like I said, the 7 principles that people can use. I designed it as a toolbox. So if you're having a day that you're struggling with taking action, you can go to the take action section and grab some tools out of there. If you're having problems with loving, loving yourself, you can go to the love chapter and get out some tools that will really be able to help you love on yourself. So that was the whole purpose point of the TRENELL Effect book, the book that I just wrote, is to provide a toolbox for those that are struggling so they will maybe be able to persevere and unleash their unstoppable potential.
Something to know that we've started asking every one of our guests this season is, what is the greatest advice that you have ever received? And based on the notes that I've taken on what you've said today, you had a lot of great advice. That's why I was like, we really needed mom on this. But if you had to pin it down to one piece of advice, what would that be? What would be the greatest piece of advice you've ever received?
Man, you making me go dig off into the treasure trunk. um, man, you gave me a hard one. Um, I guess
Tyler Williams, our mutual friend Tyler Williams, he said the same thing when I asked him this. He just stopped and said, I didn't expect to have to think this hard today.
right. Um, again, I've gotten so much good advice, but the one thing, the advice that I've gotten that has helped me even now is my mom. Trust the Lord.
Ooh.
Have that faith, because one of the things she always told me is that even with my injury, she's like, I'm not gonna always be here, but the Lord will be with you. I know He's gonna take care of you. Another advice that I've gotten is that, man, I just drew a blank. Another advice that I was given is just be you, be yourself. That's why it's so important to get to know you, because then you're able to be authentic. And another, dang, I got now they're starting rolling. And like and like I was saying earlier about your emotions, don't bury your emotions. Buried emotions are not dead emotions. They're going to resurrect themselves. So, my advice to anybody that's dealing with their emotions, especially men, because we are taught to be tough, the only emotions that are accepted is laughter or anger. Anything in between that is weakness. And I say that's a bunch of crap because you really got to get to know your emotions. So when you experience something, sit in those emotions. Identify those emotions. If you're feeling angry, I'm angry. If you're feeling sad, I'm sad. If you need to cry, it's okay to cry. It's okay to not be okay. And if you have to, set a timer. If you're angry, set a timer for 10 minutes to experience. If you're sad, if you need to take a day to just sit in those emotions and feel sad, but don't stay there because that's what kills you is when you stay in those emotions. So you're real. So be real. You're not just a human doer, you are a human being. And a human being has emotions that should be expressed in a healthy way.
And you've given us a lot of hashtag material here.
No kidding.
Abby knows I like to throw out the hashtags on the interviews. This one is going to fill up like a year's worth of quotes for us.
Exactly, right? Trenell, you've given us so many great pieces of advice and very usable, applicable knowledge. If our listeners want to go and connect with you online or to find how they can order your book or things like that, where would be a good place for them to find that information?
Great place to really find me is on Facebook. You can type in Trenell Walker, but you can also go to triumphbeyondlimits.org. That's where you find about me. That's where you're able to, connect with me as well. But again, Facebook is probably your best bet as of right now. I'm still putting things together.
And there's a short
Perfect.
film that tells your story as well. Where can they
Yes.
view that at?
Oh, that is walkerbeyondlimits.com. Again, walkerbeyondlimits.com. And that's the documentary that simply shares my story. It takes you from that moment that I was on the field to where I am now. And I'm telling you, it might make you cry because it made me cry, but it's all good.
And I would hope on the documentary that we get to meet Mama. I mean that she's front and foremost in there because what an amazing mother you have.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm telling you, I wouldn't be here without her or my brother. I mean, those two have been my pillars. I'm grateful for everyone that has played a part into my life. But at that time, when I was so weak, they was my strength.
Mm, mm. Well, audience, you'll be able to find all those links to the things that he had just said in our show notes. So if you'll look down, you'll see those. All the links, direct links to this. You'll be able to find a link to his Facebook page and the different locations for to be able to connect with him. Find his book. Is the book on Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon.
All right, we'll put a link to that as well on there as well, so folks will have a direct link if they want to find it as well and connect with you and to be able to learn more from your story. My friend, thank you. Uh,
My pleasure. And I just
thank you.
wanted to,
This yeah, we take notes. Abby and I are note takers when it comes to these interviews and stuff. And I know I was watching her when you were talking as well as me and stuff, and her head was down and my head was down. And I was like, we're writing notes, audience. We're not ignoring what he said. We are writing notes, which is what you should be doing as well.
Yeah, I got mine too.
yeah, and I just want
Uh,
to leave this with you with the final words. You are one of a kind by design. There's never been one like you, and there will never be again. You are a difference maker. You are a world changer what you do today matters
Mm.
forever, and it will send a ripple effect into eternity. You are unstoppable. It is impossible to stop a motivated person because they would never quit. Remember that.
Oh, what a great way for us to end our program today. And thank you, audience, for being there. And thank you, my friend, for sharing with this young audience your story and the really giving them tools that they need to overcome the tragedies and maybe just the obstacles that they encounter in life. Thank you again, and we'll see you again next week.